Well, hello, this is Jeff Gaudiosi, and you're on MisplacedStraws.com, where music comes to life. My guest today is one of the true survivors in rock and roll. His band Foghat is celebrating their 50th anniversary with the release of a new live record called 8 Days on the Road. And they'll be hitting the road, bringing that celebration all over the U.S. Please welcome Roger Earl. Welcome, Roger.
Hey! Good morning, Jeff. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
Doing fine, thank you.
So this new record, 8 Days on the Road, it's exactly what fans expect from a Foghat show. The energy of the band is high, and 2021 is your 50th anniversary, but with the pandemic, naturally, you guys haven't had the chance to play live in a while. This record was recorded at one of my favorite venues ever, Daryl's House in Pawling, New York, in November of 2019. Why did you pick this particular show for your 50th anniversary record?
Well, it's a really cool room. We don't normally get a chance to play in small rooms. We usually do festivals or theaters, stuff like that. But this came up and we said, we were doing like a 4-day run where all the drives were within 300 miles of each other. We had a sprinter van. It was kind of nice. So by the time we got there, we were ready, and we were also kind of tired because you don't get so much sleep sitting in a van. but it was a really cool sounding room. It's all wood, which is great for guitars and drums particularly. And the people there are really, really cool. And if somebody hasn't been there, the food is great too.
Yes, it is. I can attest to that.
Yeah. It was a really good night. Everybody had a good time. I was really pleased with it. As is usual, the way sometimes we're a little over enthusiastic, but there's no such thing, right?
Not in rock and roll.
No.
So now, for the most part, this lineup has been together for 20 years. I mean, Rodney O'Quinn is the new guy on bass at 6 years. Right. And with a lot of classic bands, we see, constant lineup changes, and fans begin to just see them as a tribute act. Now, over the years, Foghat, you guys had your share of changes, but is it important to you now to keep a steady lineup that fans can count on and know what they're going to see every time they come to a Foghat show?
Well, so long as somebody doesn't go ahead and die, yeah, we'll be together. But sometimes you can't help that. Well, this band, actually, Brian Bassett's been in the band 24 years now. Yeah. Played with Dave and Rod. Charlie Hume's been with the band 21 years, I believe. And Rodney O'Quinn has been with us 4 years. In fact, Rodney was basically handpicked by Craig McGregor, our previous long-time bass player and probably my best friend. He was playing with Pat Travers, and Craig went to see him. Craig was off the road. We had 3 or 4 bass players for a while because I said to Craig, he had lung cancer. I said, let me know when you don't want to be in the band anymore, or can't be in the band, I should say. Otherwise, you're the bass player in this band. He did come out occasionally and play with, some shows, shows that he wanted to, or if he felt really good. But Rodney is fantastic. Rodney had studied just about everything the band has done. He told me that when he was younger, the Foghat live album was his favorite and wore a couple of them out. Rodney's also, apart from being a great bass player, really super human being. He's funny. He has a ton of energy. He brings a lot to the band. And it's important to keep the band together. We all work very hard at it, and everybody can play. They're always great. They're all great players. In fact, I think I've been real fortunate throughout my musical journey. I always favored great musicians, right from the beginning, like Boy Brown with Kim Simmons, Chris Jordan, and obviously Lonesome Dave. And my very first band I was in when I was 17 years old, they were school friends of mine. We went to school together. They've been playing since they were like 10 or 11 years old. So even then, I got fortunate.
Well, and kind of let's take a walk through the band's career a bit. You mentioned Kim Simmons and Savoy Brown. Now, yourself, Lonesome Dave, Tony Stevens on bass, you guys all left Savoy Brown, added Rod Price, and became that first lineup of Foghat. Now, Kim and Savoy Brown, they were becoming really a major force in British blues. But what led to the three of you deciding, let's leave and start our own thing?
Complicated. Well, at the time, Savoy Brown in 1970 was doing fantastic. We were earning a lot of money, between $10,000 and $15,000 a night. Back in 1970, that was a lot of money. Well, it still is actually.
Yeah.
And we hadn't been paid for doing any albums. We were getting £12.50 a week. What is that? $100, I think. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just the finances, because I mean, we all really enjoyed playing together. In fact, I'm still really good friends with Kim. In fact, he played on our last studio album, mm-hmm. Under the Influence. And in fact, we're the show this coming Saturday, the Arcada just outside of Chicago. Kim's Savoy Brown is on, so we get to meet each other again. In fact, I'm probably going to ask him if he'll plan some stuff on our next album. He did mention one time that he'd like to write a song for Foghat, so maybe we'll do that. Yeah. All right.
So there was no bad blood between you and Kim. Sounds like you guys have all kind of stayed friendly over the years.
Yeah, we have.
And just as a side note, I always found it fascinating that when you came into Savoy Brown, you replaced Bill Bruford, and people don't usually think of Bill Bruford and British blues. He went off into his prog direction, but I always thought that was an interesting replacement.
Well, Bill's obviously, an excellent drummer. Mm-hmm. I think it just wasn't a good fit. I think Kim had some issues about, listen, you play in a blues band, you've got to be able to play shuffle.
Right.
And if it don't swing, it don't mean a thing. Yeah. So I think that was probably the issue. Or maybe Bill wasn't entirely happy where he was. He obviously went on to be extremely successful. Mm-hmm. So I know sometimes there's some magic. In fact, when I did my audition with Savoy Brown, I did it once and I didn't get the first call. Obviously, Bill got it. Yeah. But they called me up about a month or so later and said, "Would you come and try again?" So I borrowed my father's car, drove to this pub in southwest London, and took my drums upstairs. I was working as a commercial artist at the time in central London. And I set up, and we played for a couple of hours. Then I started packing my drums up, and nobody said anything. And then I started going down the stairs with the drums, and they said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "Going back to work, to the studio." And they said, "Well, we've got a gig in Birmingham tonight." That's the best I recall anyway. It was a long time ago. And it was a fantastic time for me and Dave as well. I loved being in the band. I really enjoyed everything that we did. And like I said, Kim and I stayed friends anyway over the years.
And once Foghat started, the band stayed steady for those first 4 records, and you guys really began to see some success. But prior to the debut, you guys relocated to the U.S. What was behind the move to come to the U.S. rather than staying in England?
Well, actually, I always wanted to come here. I remember when I was 7 or 8 years old, I told my older brother that I was going to stow away in a ship to come to the U.S. He went along with it for a little while until one day I packed my bag and he said, "Where are you going?" And I said, I'm going to stay away to America. And he said, don't be so stupid. But eventually I got it done. This is the land of music. All my musical heroes came from this country, rock and roll, jazz, blues, gospel, country and western. This is the land of music, and it influences everybody even to this day.
Yeah.
Jerry Lee Lewis, Little Richard, Muddy Waters, John Lee Hooker, Howlin' Wolf. These are all people that I guess I cut my musical teeth on.
And so after the move here and those first 4 records that really got you going, Tony Stevens leads the band, and you guys have the Fool for the City record. And that's really when you hit your stride and the peak of your success, particularly with the live record. And at that point in the late 70s, live records were huge. Peter Frampton, Kiss, and, Foghat Live is up there with the best of them. And we kind of learned over the years that maybe not all of those records were really live records. Some were studio with the crowd sort of added in. After all these years, when it comes to Foghat Live, is it a true live record or, kind of a studio fix with some of the crowd noise?
No, it was a live record. Obviously we mixed it in the studio. We had to replace a couple of vocals that the mic went out on. Back then we were doing about an hour and 40-minute set, and it was just a single record with 5 or 6 songs on there, 45 minutes worth. So there was a lot of other music. But it was taken from 2 shows upstate New York in Syracuse and somewhere else, Rochester.
Oh, great.
So it came from those 2 shows. We had the RCA mobile unit. That's how we recorded it. No, it was a live record. I think we replaced a couple of bass parts. Other than that, no, it was a live record.
And coming off the success of that, as we started to get into the 80s, Rod Price left the band, and the band's sound began to change a little, and music in general began to change. What was your reaction as sort of, video and image and MTV really began taking over and pushing the giant 70s bands like Foghat over to the side?
Maybe we should have done more videos. We did one, Slip, Tripped and Fell in Love off of the In the Mood for Something Rude album. The one, it was, I'm not really sure why. Maybe it had something to do with the management. What I really enjoyed as far as live recordings were the early stuff that we did at Don Kirshner's concerts back in 73, 74, somewhere around there, I think it was. They were fun, and they were all live recordings as well. And usually, most people don't know this, it was done in the morning.
Really?
Yeah. You had to be there like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning. We'd do a run through. Sound engineer would be up in the monitor room. They were fun. In fact, I'm surprised they haven't tried to put that out. I would occasionally I've seen them, I guess, somewhere on Facebook or somewhere. But I don't know. Live recordings, it's a lot of fun. That's why we did this one.
And it's funny because, as a kid that grew up in the 80s, as MTV was starting off, I'll never forget on Saturday afternoons, they used to show a live concert on MTV every Saturday afternoon. And it seemed like at least once a month it was Foghat. And that was my first introduction to you guys, was watching that concert on MTV over and over. So, it's, even though video sort of pushed some of those 70s bands to the side, it also introduced you to a whole new audience. So it was a weird dichotomy of it.
Yeah. It was a great time. And also another thing, about the MTV era, it was all I would say 95% or more, it was all pre-recorded. It was all like lip syncing. I have a feeling we weren't too keen on that. So that might have had something to do with it. No, like I said, they're going back to the Don Kirshner stuff and Midnight Special. They were fun because you had to be able to play and you had to know what you were doing. So, yeah.
And, as the decade went on and the band first split apart and you had your touring version and Lonesome Dave was doing his, but then you got back together in '93 with Rick Rubin. And what was it that led to that reunion?
Well, in 1984, Dave moved back to England. In fact, we just come off tour, and my wife at the time said, Dave and Linda are moving back to England. That was Dave's wife. And I said, no. She didn't say anything, which was kind of strange. I mean, he left the band. So I guess he wanted to, try something new. I carried on playing. Craig McGregor was still with us. Eric Cartwright on guitar, who'd been with us already for like 2 or 3 years back then. He replaced Rob Price. So I carried on playing. I also did a stint with a band called the New England Jam Band. That was a lot of fun. John Butcher, Charlie Farron. And that sort of got me back into it. And then Dave came back in about 6 years later, I think, 1990, I think 89, 90, he came back. And I went to see him and said, why don't we put the band back together? And he didn't want to do it. So it took a while, but it all worked out in the end.
And, then as we start to get into the new millennium, you joked about it a little earlier, but this band has seen more than its share of loss. Lonesome Dave in 2000, Rod Price in 2005, and, more recently, Eric Cartwright and Craig McGregor in 2017 and 18. At any point, did you ever think, okay, I can't do this anymore? Or is continuing the band the best tribute you can give these guys?
The hard one was, for me, was when Dave passed. It was, at the time, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. In fact, I took, 3 or 4 months off and just figured it out. I was getting a lot of CDs, cassettes at the time, sent to me of various singers. Then I remembered doing a show with Humble Pie, and Charlie Hune had taken over Stevie Marriott's place. Dave and I said to each other, let's go out and see what this guy's got under his fingernails. Because Dave and I were really good friends with Stevie Marriott. We did tons of shows with Humble Pie. And I loved the man. He was an absolute giant, even though he was only 5 foot tall. I loved him. He was an incredible singer, guitar player. And he was a lot of fun to hang with. So we went out there, the band started playing, and it was kind of mediocre, I thought. And then Charlie started singing, and I went, whoa, this guy's got, some chops. So I said to my manager at the time, if you can find a guy who was singing with Humble Pie and he's interested, otherwise I'm not really bothered at the moment. Anyway, he got Charlie's phone number for me. I called Charlie. Charlie said he was interested in playing with the band, that he loved the band, and he was also a big fan of Savoy Brown. So I sent him 30 songs, and my wife at the time, Linda, said, "That's a lot of songs for somebody to learn." I said, "If he wants a gig, he'll learn them." So he called me up about 2 months later. He came to my house out in Long Island, and it sounded like Humble Pie joined Foghat, so I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, and Charlie is a great singer, great guitar player. The one thing I really love about him is his professionalism. He's always ready to play. Just the same as Lonesome Dave was like that. Even if he was not feeling good, when he was ill, he was always, he gets on stage and he gives it 110%. Charlie's the same. So, yeah, I love the man. In fact, we're down in Florida at the moment, rehearsals, because we have our first date this Saturday coming up. So,
yep, and we mentioned the band's 50th anniversary and the tour's kicking off July 17th. And anything special planned for the tour, or are you guys just going out there and celebrating the entire history of this band?
Actually, we're doing the same set that was on 8 Days on the Road.
Oh, great!
Because this was recorded, I think, November 2019, and then of course COVID hit, and everything stopped for a year and a half. So we figured it would be a good idea to do the same stuff. Also, it's still sort of familiar. It was strange having a year and a half off. I don't think I've ever had a year and a half off, maybe since I was 12 years old. Even then, I didn't have a year and a half off. I had a summer off. So, in some ways, for me, I really enjoyed it. The rough part was not being able to see any of the band, not being able to play. In fact, two of my daughters couldn't see us. My other daughter who lives in England, my granddaughter, couldn't come here. So it was just me, my wife, my girlfriend. And that was it. Just me, my wife, and my girlfriend. Oh, and my manager as well. She was there.
It's cool that you're doing that set. I was, just listening to the record again, and I love that version to Take Me to the River that's on that record. So it'd be great to hear that live. I know you're going to be around this area a couple of times coming up, so we'll definitely be checking you out. Now, have you ever given any thought to Foghat's place in something like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
No. I know some of our bands have said something about it and wanted us to be in there, but no. It's I mean, our job, for a better word, is to go out and play and entertain people. It's always been about the music, for myself and for Dave as well, and the rest of the guys in the band. I'm one of the fortunate few in this world that gets to earn a decent living at something I love doing.
Yeah.
And the same with everybody else in the band. It's, roll till I'm old and rock till I drop. I love what I do. In fact, I missed it. It was fun. Like, we rehearsed last night here for about 3 or 4 hours, about 2 hours actually, maybe 3. And we're having today off because we got a bunch of interviews to do, and then we're going to rehearse again tomorrow. And it's like, just clearing out the cobwebs and going, oh, that's what I used to do. So I also keep, I have stuff to listen to if I'm not sure about. And that's another thing. I try to record a number of live shows just to make sure we're all on the same page as far as tempos and the way the songs go, because this band tends to I Just Want to Make Love to You was like it was a 5-minute song, 4.5-minute song originally. Now it's up to 10.
Yeah.
Slow Ride was an 8-minute song. Now it's up to 11. Shell of Feet, 59 Boogie was a 5-minute song. That's now 8. Yeah, we tend to jam, I think the term is. So, you're up there, you're having fun. And especially when you get to some rooms that sound really good and you can all hear each other really well. In some rooms, like a Presidium stage, it's a big high stage, you don't hear each other as well as you'd like. So, then you press the autopilot button and play the arrangements as you remember them last time. But, yeah, We give ourselves permission to jam.
And that's a good thing. We've been spending some time here today with Roger Earl, the drummer for the legendary Foghat. The new record is called 8 Days on the Road. It's a live record celebrating their 50th anniversary. It's out everywhere. Band is hitting the road beginning July 17th all over the U.S. I see you have dates into the fall. I'll definitely be catching a couple of those. So hopefully we can say hello on the road. And Roger, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff. It was a pleasure talking to you. And I'll see you out there somewhere. You take care.
You got it, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.